What's going on, guys? It's Greg from East Coast Eyes, and we're back with another head review. This time we've got the new Omega line from STX. So they released both of them at the same time. We've got the Stallion Omega and the Hammer Omega, each of which is the newest in their Stallion and Hammer lines, but with this new Omega plastic technology. So looking at the basic specs, they each cost 119 bucks. So starting out right there, that is really expensive for an unstrung head. For a while, you know, they've been $90, $89.99, and then there was a movement for a little bit to make them even cheaper, with Warrior putting out a whole press release about their $70 heads, but they're pretty much all back up at 90. So this is about 30% more expensive than other high-end heads on the market, and a lot of that is driven by this plastic and saying that you'll need to replace them less often, so they should be a little more expensive. So if you're looking for a budget head, this is probably not going to be it, but if you're looking for high performance and you're willing to pay the highest price on the market, this might fit for you guys. So for colors, they have a white and a black. They're calling them Pearl White and Galaxy. The Pearl White is pretty white, but the Galaxy, which is essentially their black, is more like a dark gray and has some shades of light gray, kind of purplish tint where the light hits it in different places. I assume this is something to do with the plastic and they couldn't get it quite black, so they went Pearl White and Galaxy, which is definitely not a black head, but it is kind of a cool look, so I don't really mind it too much. So let's break these down one by one. First off, the Stallion. So this is the successor to the Stallion 700, but upgraded with their new Omega plastic, which both these have. And the Omega plastic essentially is a higher weight to stiffness ratio. So these heads are really, really stiff, and the Stallion Omega is only 4.9 ounces. So really, like, that 5 ounce mark is the tipping point for what you consider like a lighter weight head to a heavier weight head. So 4.9 is right under that midpoint. It's a really great weight, and for that weight is a super stiff design. So looking at it aesthetically, it's going to resemble the Stallions you guys have seen for years. Similar face shape with a relatively tight pinch, but it's pretty general in the face shape, which makes it good for a lot of different positions. And then the rail profile is focused on that mid to mid-high pocket, and it's got those signature true struts going up towards the top of the head. There's not a lot updated that's functional here, except for the styling. They went with a more aggressive styling. They've got some cool dimmer textured all over it. Overall, it's a really good looking head, really fast and sleek. The 700 was kind of smooth and swoopy, and this one has a little bit more edge to it. One thing you're gonna notice in here is these stringing grooves on the top rail on the inside here. That's for if you like to string to the inside, so the string would go up over top of the rail, and those would kind of just hold it in place. That's not too common of a stringing technique, so even if you're not going to use it, it still is kind of a cool looking feature. Up here, they've carved away a lot of the scoop and then updated speed scoop just a little bit. It's just a little more rounded, and I think they made the angle a little steeper for high angle ground balls. So overall, classic Stallion design as far as the overall silhouette goes. The face shape, something you're really familiar with some subtle styling updates. Next up, you've got the Hammer Omega, same plastic. This one gets a little weight bump up to 5.4 ounces, but like I said, with that one is really, really stiff. And this one, they did a full overhaul of the design. This doesn't even remotely resemble the old Hammer. So usually you think of, you know, generations of heads, they share relatively similar strut pattern. This one, they went totally off and totally revamped the strut pattern, but basically kept the Hammer name because it's their defensive head. So you've got one strut head back this way, and then two headed up this way. It gives it plenty of room to be plenty stiff. They still kept the strike plate thing up here from the original Hammer. And then they actually tighten up the face shape a lot, which I really like. So this is tighter up until this point, which is gonna lead you to have a better pocket. D guys are transitioning to heads with a slightly better face shape rather than having that big bowl. But then they widen out on the scoop for ground balls, knocking down passes, that kind of stuff. So other than that, it's got a higher focus pocket, like you've seen with most defensive heads, so it's a pretty big design update from the Hammer, and I like that new pinch face shape. For stringing, we didn't string up the Hammer yet, but I did string up the Stallion, and it strung up really well. I've got that mid-high pocket to go with that rail profile. This is the Hero 3, and I really like how it turned out. One thing that has always bugged me with Stallions, and they didn't change it on this one, is the top string hole spacing. They are really far apart, and you really have to stretch, and you can see up in these middle two gaps, it's a really far stretch to get that mesh apart. It's always been a pet peeve of mine. They still haven't fixed it. They have pretty much entirely eliminated C-rail technology from the Stallion. That was like the big thing when it launched, and now they just have a little bit up top, but it faded away because it was difficult to string with. But overall, a really great pocket, and it's interesting to see they got the top string hole spacing looks like perfect on the Hammer. but the Stallion is still really, really wide, but they did add that channel lock hole up in the middle of the scoop if that's something that you like. So overall, what I like about these heads is that stiffness to weight ratio. That Omega plastic seems really, really nice. What I don't like is the price point. I think back in the day, college me would have never spent $120 on the head, and I think that's gonna be really prohibitive for some customers. But again, if you're looking to spend that high price point, you're gonna get a little bit of extra performance with that Omega plastic. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Make sure to like if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't, and have a great day.